This is HQ presented by Jersey Mike's, and this could be a critical week as Major League Baseball and the Players Association try to hammer out a new collective agreement. The clock is ticking on the season potentially being delayed. The two sides have agreed to daily meetings all this week in the hopes that they can get a deal done. Opening day remains scheduled for March 31st. The league reportedly views February 28th as the latest date the two sides can reach an agreement without delaying opening day, which gives them 1 week to get a deal done. And for more on this, let's now welcome in our baseball insider, former MLB executive Jim Bowden. Jim, how far apart do they remain in terms of getting a deal done?
Hundreds of millions of dollars. So there's several dollars away, unfortunately. But the good news is today in Jupiter, Florida at 1 o'clock, several owners will be at the negotiating table. You can tell that the bargaining sessions have moved from New York to Jupiter, Florida, when the owners are actually going to be there. But that's the good sign. The other good sign, as you mentioned, is they're planning to stay at the bargaining table throughout the week to try to work through this and get a deal done. Both sides would like to not have a work stoppage come opening day on March 31st, and so they're going to work hard this week. But there are a lot of issues that have to be resolved, and they are literally hundreds of millions of dollars apart if you want to look at the whole package.
So the last major work stoppage in baseball was in the mid-'90s, resulted in 948 games being canceled, including the entire postseason, the first time since, I think, 1904 that there was no World Series. The league was out for 232 days back then, Jim, and the 95 season shortened by 18 games. Surely we're not going to see that here, right?
I can't tell you if we're going to see that or not. I can tell you that back then in 1995, I was the general manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and we got off to a horrible start. We started off 1-8 and ended up in the league championship series against the Braves. But it was a big lesson for me because our spring training, we weren't prepared enough with the shortened spring training. Our players didn't come into camp in shape. And that's why it's so important for the players who have had no contact with the club since the lockout began. It's important that they're working out on their own. It's important they come into camp in 100% shape. You know, Buck Showalter, the manager of the Mets, who's down here in Port St. Lucie, said, look, it's going to be very critical, not just for the players to come in shape, but for the organizations to be ready to start spring training and, you know, probably have to work overtime each day to get ready because we're going to have a shortened spring no matter how you cut it either way. And the teams that are ready and prepped the most are the teams probably they're going to have a better chance of winning this year.
Okay, so Jim, I mean, you've been here before. You've been keeping track of what's going on. So what's your confidence level that they can get a deal done this week? Give us a number. Give us a percentage.
Well, look, I'd say 35% chance they get something done by the end of the week. Look, I want to be an optimist and say the odds are better, but this is a whole different CBA than the last two. The last two, the clubs won. This one, the players are going to win, even if they accept what's on the table. But to see how far apart they are on the tax, on the threshold for the tax, the CBT, to see how far apart they are on how to compensate the 0 to 2 non-arbitration eligible players, where they're literally $100 million apart on that one issue alone. They're far apart on the tanking issue. Union wants 8 teams in the lottery. The clubs want 3. There's just a lot of issues. And what we have to hope for is that both sides are willing to break some bones and bleed a little bit this week, because to get a deal done, it's going to take significant compromise. But understand this CBA is going to be a lot different than the last two. And no matter how it ends up, the players are going to win this particular negotiation because they're going to get a lot of the things that they wanted.
Well, here's hoping with the 1 week deadline before the season has to be put back a little bit, we do get some more positive numbers as we head through the week from you, Jim. Okay, lastly, Vanderbilt debuted a new wearable pitch signaling device. For those who don't know what this is, and tell us about it and why they're using it.
Yeah, this is tremendous. So what happens is every player on the field will wear an electronic band, and it's a one-way band. So they only get information from the coach, and basically the coach of Vanderbilt can call every single pitch and just put it in the catcher's wrist, put it on the pitcher's wrist. Same thing for defensive shifts. If you need to shift each batter, they electronically tell the player. They just look at their wrist and they adjust. Now, this is something Major League Baseball is going to look at. I talked to a glove company who also told me they're trying to invent an electronic device that would go inside the baseball glove. So instead of the player having to look at his wrist like a watch, they would just open their glove and they would see that messaging. Now, because of the scandals that Major League Baseball has had, they're not going to jump into this in 2022, but they're going to be watching the success at Vanderbilt, see how it works. And this is something, no doubt in my mind, will be in the future of Major League Baseball, maybe as soon as 2023.
Technology coming to the game, finally, in fits and starts. He is our baseball insider, former MLB executive Jim Bowden, joining us to discuss the lockout and the daily meetings. I'm sure we're going to be seeing you a lot this week, Jim. Thanks very much. And we may see this guy as well a few times this week, the host of Nothing Personal with David Sampson. David, very well versed on what's happening behind the scenes in baseball, and you can hear his insights multiple times per week via the pod. Download and follow Nothing Personal with David Sampson wherever you get your podcast audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.